Welcome to Gather, Connect, Create, the podcast that gets people doing just that. At least I hope that's what these episodes do. My name is Megan Schultz, and each week I am here with an idea or a perspective, or sometimes, like today, an interview with someone who is doing something in their community that I'm hoping to learn from. What do they do? How do they do it? How did they get started? What inspired them to put themselves out there? Because it's a challenge. It takes courage to connect. It's much easier to hole up and stay in our own little bubble of the world, but when we get out there, when we gather, connect, and create with each other, gives me the chills just talking about it. That is what I'm hoping these bite-sized episodes inspire week after week. So if you're here with me, if you're still here, I'm so grateful. And if this inspires you, I would love to hear about it. Today on Gather, Connect, Create, I am excited to introduce you to a poet and interdisciplinary artist, a community organizer, writing instructor, and a current candidate, although I know she's almost crossing the finish line for her PhD in poetry at UW-Milwaukee. And that is my friend Angela Voras-Hills. About a year and a half ago, Angela and her friend Danielle Harms decided to organize and host their first Book Drop MKE, which is essentially a gathering in the back room of a really cool brewery in River West, where they bring in new authors with recently published books on small presses. They can be poets, fiction, nonfiction, writers who are looking to share their work, and they invite readers in Milwaukee, and anywhere really, anyone is welcome, to come. And it's this beautiful, semi-regular gathering when they're in season that just celebrates the connections between readers and writers, and in fact, encourages those connections. And it's slightly different than your typical book reading where you may go to a bookstore. I know I've been to many of these at our local bookstore here, where you sit in a chair in the audience, you listen to the author read, maybe there's time for a few questions, and then you buy the book, you get in line, they sign the book, and you go home. This is much more involved and interactive, and I love it. And so I wanted to have Angela on to talk about how she did this, how she put this together, and what tips she might have for somebody else who might like to start something in their community, whether it's with authors or whether it's with whatever it is that you love. So I hope this is a helpful interview, and I also hope to see you at one of the next few book drops, MKE, if you're a local. All right, let's jump right in. Angela, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy you could join me on the podcast. And I want to dive right in because I mentioned in the intro the book drop that you do. And I want to dive right into this concept and how you got that off the ground. I know you are a poet yourself, and so this makes sense. But can you just describe a little bit for listeners who may not have ever been to one of the book drop MKEs? What are these? What happens there? Just give us the rundown.
Sure. Yeah. So the book drop is a local reading series. It is held, we aim for once a month during like the spring and fall semester seasons. We don't do anything in the summer or over winter break typically. But we like to invite readers with new books from small presses to come to the city and read for us. So in addition to hosting usually two writers from other places outside of Milwaukee, we typically also host a writer from the city, and just kind of to connect people, local writers, with more national writers. And so it is like a typical reading series where the writers come, they read for us, but it's also in a lot of ways a little bit different. We have a break in between the readings to socialize, for people to get together. Our aim is really to connect the audiences with the writers. So
Mm.
if you go to a poetry reading, for example, a lot of times like there's the poet or the writer on the stage and they read their work and there's it feels like there's a wall between you, the audience, and the reader, like they're like or the writer, like they're kind of an untouchable, like you can't get to know them. And I
Mm.
really wanted to like let that wall down in this reading series so that the community gets to really know the writers. We also, so usually what happens is we have a lot of time in the beginning where people grab a beer. It's hosted at Amorphic, so people grab a beer at Amorphic Brewery, which is an amazing space in River West. They come in, they hang out for like 15 minutes. We usually start late just to help the audience kind of build community and get to know each other and chat with one
Mm.
another. I often like walk around and introduce people who maybe should know each other just to like kind of get the conversations started. So usually that happens at the beginning, then two people read, and then there's a break. We sometimes play games during the break, like kind of like silly icebreakery games. We have a raffle. And then after the break, one more person will read, and at the end there's a Q&A with our writers with like silly questions to get to know them a little bit more, to get to know a little bit more about the writing process. But again, it's really not just like a reading series, it's more of a like a community building reading around literature kind of thing.
Yes, I love it because it feels like what well for one you're speaking my language, right? You're gathering, you're connecting and you're creating
Yeah.
and icebreakers I love. But it feels like what you're trying to do maybe and maybe this is why you started it, but is to make poetry more accessible to everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, making poetry more accessible. And also, really believe that poetry and the reading series is like poetry and fiction and nonfiction. So like I
Okay,
do
okay.
believe that like writing generally is even though you do it on your own, it is really about building community. When somebody sits down to write, they're not necessarily just like writing into a void, like they're writing to talk to people. And so if you can get out to your audience and actually talk with them, I don't know, like it
Mm.
engages the audience in a way that I think, otherwise like the audience is sitting at home reading your book and having their own thoughts about what you've written. But if you can actually meet your audience and then talk to them about what they've thought after they read your book or whatever, like I think writing is in some ways and reading is like an inherently community building experience. And so to make that like an in-person real life thing is really cool.
Yes, yeah. To see that the people that you love reading and authors are real people too with these what maybe they're trying to share as their universal experience of life and breakdown of and explanations of life, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes.
So when you started or when you came up with this idea, how did you bring it to reality? Are you I don't know, are you friends with the amorphic guys and they let you have their room? How like I'm just and in asking these kinds of questions, I guess I'm trying to think in terms of if somebody who's listening is like, what a great idea. I'd like to do something like that. Like was it complicated to get this off the ground or
Um, it
yeah, I
was.
was going to say it's okay if yes is the answer.
I mean, it kind of was. So we started, so I had been to a couple of readings at the Sugar Maple in the past. I'm a PhD student at UW Milwaukee, and we, like the school, the university hosts a reading series that used to sometimes be held at Sugar Maple for free. So I knew that that space was available for free, and that was the first person we reached out to. And our first one, or maybe two or three, were hosted at Sugar Maple. And it was actually pretty easy to get in there. It wasn't really tricky. And then they started charging fees. So we
Mm.
had to find another place to go because I mean, I don't make any money. My dream is to start a nonprofit just so I can get donations to pay my readers at least because, like I said, they come from out of town. And, usually it's like they're on a book tour and they're stopping in Chicago and Madison, and we're kind of a bridge between those two. So it makes it worth it
Mm.
to come. But um, yeah, but I would love to be able to to give them some money. But yeah, so we don't get money, we don't have money. It's like a not a very not for-profit situation, has our most readings, as you likely know.
Yes.
So yeah, so when they started charging it, it was not really feasible for us. So then I had to do a lot of just like trying to find another space. I emailed a lot of other places. I did a lot of research. I talked to a lot of friends. And one of my friends had been to the Amorphic for something. Their back room is an amazing space, and they
Hmm.
usually do charge to use it if you're like hosting a private event. But I think our community that we've created has gotten so large, and I think they just like buy enough drinks to make it. If there's At first it was like if there's nothing else on our schedule that night, a month in advance, you guys can use the space. And so that's how it was working. But now I think that we've brought so many people in so regularly, they've like let us use the space when as long as their schedule is free. Yeah. So, but it did take a lot of legwork to get that space, and yeah, a lot of not legwork, just like a lot of emailing and researching. And
And you do these, you say, every month when you're in kind of in season in spring and
yeah,
fall. Is it difficult to get authors to come, or are they always agreeable?
it's actually pretty funny because when I start lining them up in whenever that happens. I mean, I'm working with my co-host Danielle Harms, who is an amazing writer and just an amazing person. She does a lot of the like getting the people to come. She's a lot. Yeah, she's fantastic, and she's my co-host. We work together. She and I together usually try to like find people to come, and then I'm the one usually who just like is sending out random emails to people whose work I like, or people have heard enough people have heard about it now that like I get a significant number of emails, but there are always like one or two dates where I'm kind of scrambling last minute to be like, nobody can fill in this date, and who can I get? So yeah, I mean, people are excited to share their work. Um,
Mm.
I think I probably could be better at cold emailing people whose work I love, because I don't know, I'm always a little bit nervous to be like, hey, would you like to come to Milwaukee for no money and read? So again, like I think once I have, some funds to pay people, I would be more like, I can give you $100, which will pay for your gas.
Yes.
So,
I'm curious what, as you've now been doing this actually, when did you start? How?
oh my gosh, it was April of 2024. This is the one that's happening in December is the 13th book drop.
Oh,
So
wow.
we've
Okay.
done, yeah, so we've done it for over a year, like a year and a half now. Yeah.
Yeah. What has been the most maybe surprising or the most rewarding thing that you have seen, either from the authors themselves or the connections between, or I don't know, any fun?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. Like one thing that was really fun last year at AWP, this giant writing conference, it was hosted in LA last year. I organized a book drop kind of reunion, so invited all of the former readers to come to happy hour, and like not too
Fun.
many showed up, but enough did where I'm like, look at all of these people who came to Milwaukee to read their work.
Yay.
Like, that's so cool. So that was really fantastic. And then not this past reading, but the one before, Richard Vargas came from Madison and he was like chatting with people in the audience. And when he left, he was like, this is just the coolest community. I don't know. And it really is like the people are all so great. Everybody is so happy to talk with one another. Then this last reading, Teresa Zieglowitz, I can never remember how to say her last name. I think that's similar. I think that's kind of what it sounds like. She also was like, what you've built is really fantastic. I don't know. So to hear the writers who are coming from other places, who, for me, I'm like, is this worth your time? I hope
Mm.
it's been worth your time. To hear them be kind of embraced by the community in a way that is meaningful to them means a lot to me. And so I think like I don't know, that's just always very exciting. Every time Danielle and I put one on, we show up and we're like, oh my gosh, what if nobody comes? And people consistently come. We like get like at least 25 to 30 plus people every time, which always surprises us somehow, even though it keeps happening. But
Yes. Oh,
yeah,
that's so great. Yes, I have that fear for sure every time I actually have an episode about this coming out that every time the invitation goes out, I'm like, oh, but what if nobody comes? You know, that
yeah,
fear of putting yourself out there, putting something of yours, like your baby into the world. It's scary to see
yes.
the reaction. So what does a successful book drop look like to you? Is it numbers? Is it the conversation? Or how do you define, when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the conversation. I'm remembering one event that we hosted was November or whatever the date was after the election in
Mm,
November last
mm,
year.
mhm.
And it was Paloma Ghosh, Stephen Espada Dawson, and Brenda Cardenas. And the readings were amazing, but there were very few people in the audience. It was like one of our like saddest attendance situations. But it felt so good on that day to be in that space with that community. And so I don't for me it's definitely not about numbers. Like I want more people to come just because I think it's good. Like I think it's good for them. Like I think it's good. Like I want like that's the point of it is that I want people to come. But if the number, it's like quality over quantity, I think. Like I don't necessarily need a bunch of people there just to throw tomatoes, but like if people are engaging in conversations and like really excited to be there and chatting with each other or being with each other in a time when they feel like maybe unseen or scared or vulnerable, or I think like there are times like in dark times community is actually very comforting and great. And so I think it's definitely more about the conversation and about if I see people like authentically connecting with one another, like people who've never met before, sitting at tables together and talking, like that makes me so happy. So I love that.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, I feel that 100%. Well, let's talk about your next one coming up because it is December 5th, Friday, December 5th.
Yeah, it's Friday, December 5th at Amorphic. They're always hosted on Fridays at 7 p.m. So definitely check it out if you're in the area. We'll be featuring Tacey Atsidy, John Contreras, and DeWitt Clinton. They are John and DeWitt both live in this general area in the Milwaukee area. And Tacey Atsidy is coming from Beloit. She's a new professor over at Beloit. So they are all poets. And I know you might have seen, if you're from the area, John Contreras, he does typewriter poetry at farmers markets and festivals. So if you've been to like any kind
Mm.
of event in Milwaukee ever, you've probably seen him at a typewriter. He's everywhere, typewriting poems for people. So he's
Oh,
a
fun.
yeah, yeah, he's really cool. So
Will he be bringing his typewriter?
I don't know. That's a great question. I should ask him to do that. Yeah.
Okay, so I will link in the show notes. I will link to how people can find out information about that particular show in December. But if they're listening later than December and they just want to find out about the next one, what is the best way?
Yes. So follow us on Instagram. It's Book Drop MKE. Maybe you can put that in the show notes too.
Okay.
And otherwise, I have, if you come to an event, we do this raffle every time, and you give us your email address, and then I will email you just information about the next reading. I have no other reason to contact you, so I won't. But I'll send you a little information about the next reading, who's coming, when it
Awesome.
is, etc. And then come to one and then get on our mailing list.
Yes, yes. I know I always say on my emails, I wouldn't know how to spam you if I tried. So just, I
Exactly.
promise.
Exactly. Yes, I have no idea. And I don't have time. Like
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, for those who are listening who might not necessarily think about organizing something, who may not know poets or writers or things like that, but you started on this a little bit at the beginning. I might call this episode in praise of the poem or in praise of the poet or something like that, or in praise of the writer, because can you get on your soapbox for a hot minute and just talk about how writing connects us and how, I don't know, I feel really strongly about that. And I know there's some people who may not be able to gather or may not even be able to go to events like this, but just how I don't know, the importance of poets as a poet yourself.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it is like an importance of like writers and artists generally. I think that when we read, I mean, poems are interesting because I think they're sh often short, and a lot of people are scared of them because they've been taught there's a certain way to read them. Like a lot of readers are like, I don't get it, and it doesn't make any sense. And if it doesn't, I think that you're reading the wrong poem and keep trying different poems
Mm.
because
Mm.
eventually you will find a poem and it will like break you open and you will see the world completely differently.
Mhm.
And I think that's what poetry has the power to do. It has the power to connect you to something deeper in you that you maybe didn't realize you had in there. And it connects you then to that poet as well because they gave that to you. I don't know, it's like a conversation that's happening deeper than surface level, is what I think about poetry. And like writing more broadly, I think does something similar. Like when you read a book of fiction that you love, you are taken to some other place completely. You enter a conversation that maybe you've never been in before. You connect with the world in just a completely different way, like on a different plane. Um,
Mm.
I just think it's so important to find the things in writing that speak to you. Yeah, I don't like it's so cliche, but like you're never alone if you're with a good book. Like you are always it,
Yes.
right? Like I don't know. It matters. I think it matters.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that about if you don't like the poem, find another one, because I think people stop. Like for a long time, I was just like, "Oh, poems, like is that old style ye shall, and
Right.
I don't know how to that those are confusing for me and they don't feel accessible, but I have found recently one I quoted on the podcast a lot was Rosemary Watola Tromer. I love her so much. And who did I read this morning? Barbara Crooker? Is that her name? I don't just these poems where it's so relatable because they're writing about the things that I also see and experience on the daily. So yes, in
Yeah.
a plug for finding your poet. And how
Yes.
about you? Can people find any of your work anywhere?
Oh, yeah, sure. So my first book, Louder Birds, came out in 2020. There are a couple of copies at Boswell Books, if that's your jam, if you're in Milwaukee. Also Woodland Pattern, which is like the greatest resource for poets and writers in the city. It is just amazing. And you should talk to them sometime because they're
Mm.
so cool. And do a lot to connect and get people together, writers and artists. So
Oh, yes. Thank you.
yes, yeah, they're so great. Yeah, but my book is also at Woodland Pattern, and you could order it from them. You can order it online. I also just have a bunch of poetry on my website,
Mm.
linked there if you want to check it out first. So yeah, my work is kind of bouncing all over the place.
Great. Well, yes, I will link to that as well. And as I was thinking about for listeners who may not, as I said, be able to organize something on a grand a scale as the book drop, I had a friend who was saying she wanted to start like a poetry club where, like a book club, but instead of reading a whole book, which sometimes can be hard once a month if you're in the thick of things, just bringing one poem and then we all read the poem and go around and just talk about it.
I love that idea. I love that so much.
Yes, what a genius idea. All right, Gillian, if you're listening, let's get this started. And
Yes.
maybe you can join, Angela,
Yes.
because she
And I
said
mean,
that.
I'm not going to be this person, but I am right now. Like maybe even like somebody reads a poem and you respond to the poem with like a watercolor or like bring a sketchbook and like I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm a real sucker for like interdisciplinary
Yes,
art work. So yeah.
same. That would be fun. Oh my gosh, now you've given me an idea. Okay. Maybe we'll have to do that one of these
Yeah,
days together.
for sure. It
I
sounds
love
amazing.
it. I love it. Well, is there anything I haven't asked that you thought about mentioning in terms of the book drop?
I would love more people to come. I always feel like at the last minute I'm trying to bribe my friends to join or something because I'm like, oh no, no, but people always show up, and I hope more people do because it's really fun. I hope that people listening might want to read with us if you have a new book coming out. We love celebrating new books. So yeah,
Well, thank you so much for joining. And I've got it in my calendar, so I hope to be at the next one.
wonderful. I would love to see you there.
So, listeners, if you're local, head down to Amorphic Beer this Friday night, December 5th. Or if you're listening to this after December 5th, there's always another one. So check them out. I will post links to the Book Drop MKE series on the show notes down below, wherever you're listening to this podcast. And see if you can make it to one of their next ones, because I do really think that it's more than just a passive listen. As Angela said, it's interactive. She will encourage you to meet your table mate, interact with the authors, ask questions. You know, she had me at the word icebreaker. So a couple things I want to mention that I heard from Angela as well. If this is something that you're thinking, wow, I could see gathering people on a monthly or a quarterly basis around something, whatever it is that lights you up, whether it's writing, whether it's poetry, or whether it's something completely different and you just want to host a gathering around it, she found somewhere that would let them use the space for free if they bought drinks. Consistency is key. Always a Friday, always 7 o'clock. The other thing I heard is she has an event buddy that she coordinates this with. Doing things in partnership, doing things with people, I have said this before, but makes us braver, makes the work easier, shares the load. And I loved her plug that yet again, and I have also said this, quality over quantity. Success is not about how many people show up. Of course you want people to show up because of course you want them to hear, in this case, these authors, to converse with them and to be a part of the gathering. Of course you want butts in seats, but it's also about the kinds of conversation that you have with the people who show up. I love that she said, I don't want numbers just to throw tomatoes. That's exactly it. And last but not least, put something out there and people will come. It might take a little bit of bravery, a little bit of courage to launch that first event or get your first whatever it is out into the public, out to a space where it is no longer necessarily your baby, but you're getting reactions to it. But get yourself out there and people will show up for you. If you are doing that, if you are putting yourself out there, trying something new to bring people in, to gather, to create or connect, I would love to hear about it. I would love to shout you out on the podcast and hear about how you started something to inspire the rest of us to try putting something of ours out into the world. All right, I will be back next week with another episode of Gather, Connect, Create. Until then, remember that this is a practice, and a practice where we're not aiming for perfection. We're just aiming at getting better so that we can keep connecting in this very, very disconnected world. All right, see you next week.